Hey guys, it's Luke bringing you my preview for the 2021 FedEx St. Jude Invitational Tournament on Draftkings. This is going to be coming out in its new time slot on Sunday afternoon to give you guys an opportunity to preview this week's event before going to work Monday through Friday. This also gives me a chance to be a little bit more in depth with my course breakdown and key metrics as I'm looking into it a little bit more. I'm not worried about putting out a second video in the afternoon, and we're also going to have the top 6 DraftKings picks out tomorrow afternoon in its normal slot on Monday. Just wanted to give you that little update. As usual, in this video, I'm going to be giving a preview of the field, a full course breakdown, as well as my top 3 key metrics for analysis this week for DraftKings. If you're new here, first of all, I want to welcome you to the channel. Here on the GS Luke DFS channel, we implement a data-based approach. We rely on statistical analysis and analytics to help take on DFS. I implement strategies and techniques I've picked up as an engineer over the years to help visualize, analyze a variety of daily fantasy sports. In addition to just covering the PGA Tour, I cover the NFL, NBA, UFC, and more. So if you're looking for even more sports analysis, make sure to check out my channel and subscribe. On top of my video analysis, I also give access to my Patreon page. That is for my PGA Tour projections, where you get access to all of my raw data going into every event. I give a full projection for every player in every field going on for the PGA Tour. I also give their ownership projections. I also give some game theory notes, and there's going to be even more tools and content to come. My goal is to give you guys all of the tools that I use for my daily fantasy sports on that page. So right now it's just $1. It's a very, very good, I would say, value. I'd say a very good deal as well. Again, you get access to all of my projections, all 156 players for a full field, or all 66 players in an invitational field like we have this week. Now that we've got all that crap out of the way, let's hop into my preview for this week's event. The FedEx St. Jude Invitational is a no-cut event, so aka all the players will be playing all 4 rounds. So just like the Olympics, no worries about a missed cut or anything like that. We have an invitational field of 66 players. We have pretty much all of the best players in the world except for 2. One of those 2 is very notable. It's Jon Rahm. He had COVID at the Olympics. He's still testing positive, so won't be able to make it out to Memphis. We also have Christian Bezuidenhout, who played at the Olympics. Obviously, it was a little bit of a grind going over there, dealing with jet lag. He's taking the week off from Memphis because of that. So just like last week at the Olympics, we're looking for highly volatile golfers that can make birdies in bunches. JT was one of our picks last week, and I had a few guys messaging me telling me that they were a little bit disappointed in JT. He wasn't really coming through. I just told everyone to kind of relax. You know, it's only through 2 rounds. He went out and shot 9 under his last 2 days. Obviously, he wasn't an optimal play. In cash games, he was more than fine, though. Ended up being just a little bit better than average, which wasn't what I was looking for, but sometimes you're going to have those slow starts, and that's what happens. But this week we're looking for guys that can make up that ground, people that can post a 15, 20 under par and go out and win a WGC event. There's also an alternate event this week that is a Barracuda Championship. A lot of the guys that aren't in the top 50, 60 in the world, people that are in that 60 to 150 range, will be at the Barracuda. There's going to be just as many FedEx Cup points on the line. There's going to be just as big of a prize, actually a little bit less of a prize pool, but typical for a PGA Tour event over there at the Barracuda. And I may put a preview out for that. It'd be a little bit of work, but if that's something you guys would like to watch, something that you guys are going to be playing at DFS this week, just let me know in the comments and I'll get something out for you guys. With that all being said, let's hop into the course breakdown. So the course for this week is TPC Southwinds. That is in Memphis, Tennessee, a par 70 with 7,233 yards of distance. This is a Ron Pritchard design, and as per usual with a Pritchard design, they have relatively small greens. What this usually prioritizes is precision into greens. Also prioritizes around the green play as well, which we'll get into here with my key metrics. In terms of the greens we have some Bermuda grass greens. This is a change from the typical bent grass surface we've seen in the last month and a half on tour. The surface change, along with the relatively small greens that I mentioned, is going to lead to a de-emphasis in putting this week. People are going to have to adjust to the new surface, especially people that have been playing a lot of golf. You're also going to see that the relatively small greens means that more putts are going to be made. You're not going to see as many 3 putts, obviously, because they're relatively small. And again, we'll get into that with the key metrics here in a second. When we take a look at the fairways, they are a zoysia grass. Zoysia grass is both a pro and a con if you're a professional golfer. The rough tends to be very penal, especially if it has any type of moisture on it at all. You may have heard of like wet zoysia, it just grabs the club face. You tend to hit a lot of pulls out of that surface. And that's really going to affect people in the morning wave. Typically, we see the morning wave do a lot better than the afternoon waves, and that's actually going to be the opposite this week, especially if there's a lot of dew. In the summertime, even if it doesn't rain, if it's rained like once or twice that week, you're going to see dew every single day in the morning. What that means is that people that are missing in the rough on these mornings are going to have a much more penalizing shot than those in the afternoon. We're also looking at Zoysia being very advantageous to hit out of in the fairway. It's something that it's almost like a carpet when you're hitting off of it. Every single shot that you have out of the fairway is almost going to be teed up. So as a result, you're able to put a lot of control, a lot of spin on these wedges. That's something to look out for as well. With all that being said, let's hop into the top 3 key metrics for modeling that I was teasing there. These key metrics were identified using correlation analysis over the last 10 years at the FedEx St. Jude Invitational. We have a lot of course data from TPC Southwinds. We've seen it a lot for these WGCs. We've also seen it for the Memphis Open. So as a result, we have a lot of data. I have a very good idea of how this course plays. And as a result, we're going to be very aggressive with our modeling and our weighting for this week. One thing to mention is when you look at the graph and the analysis for these key metrics, you're going to see what I typically weight these key stats for a typical PGA Tour event. We'd say this is like the average weighting I'd use. There's obviously going to be weeks where I use more, like you're going to see with these 3 key metrics, and weeks where they're going to be a little bit de-emphasized. One of the statistics that I'm de-emphasizing this week is shots gained putting. Like I mentioned, they're relatively small greens. You're not dealing with huge undulations as well. You're on the Bermuda grass surface, which is something that we haven't seen on tour for a while. So you're going to see guys struggle a little bit more than usual. As a result, shots gained putting isn't really where you're going to differentiate yourself at a week like this. So that's why it's going to be a little bit less weighted this week than it typically would be. But at number 3, we have birdie or better percentage. On a typical week, that's around a 0.055 unit weight. That is around like a 5.5% weight. And this week, we're going to be looking at it at around a 12.7% rate. Like I mentioned before, at TPC Southwinds, it's a course that surrenders quite a bit of birdies. Especially in a no-cut event, you're looking for guys that have that birdie upside, can go out and make birdies in bunches and make up for their bogeys. We saw Justin Thomas win this event last year. He's obviously somebody who's the king of birdie or better percentage. He's typically number 1 on tour by the end of the year in the category. And over the last 10 years, birdie or better percentage ranks number 7 out of 56 on tour in terms of importance at TPC Southwinds. What this means is that there's only 6 other courses on tour where birdie or better percentage is more important than it is at Southwinds, which was a little bit surprising to me at first when I saw this. Again, the winning score is not in the 15, 16 under par range typically. It's more in the single digits or at least close to 10 under par. But it does surrender its good amount of birdies. Because the greens are so small, when you put yourself in position to score, you usually do so. So you're looking at guys that put themselves in positions to score. And typically when you're putting yourself in a position to score, you're also keeping yourself out of trouble. So like I mentioned, they are relatively small targets. So making sure you're hitting them is obviously going to be important as well, as we'll see with my number 1 key stat here in a little bit. Another reason that birdie or better percentage is always important when it comes to fantasy production, that's why you see it even at a 5.5% rate from every single golf tournament, is because birdie production is very correlated to fantasy success. If you guys take a look at the Draftkings scoring, if you guys are familiar with that, birdie production is about 80% of a player's score. Obviously, finishing position comes into it, also streaks, bogey-free rounds, all that kind of stuff. But birdie production is most of your production in terms of actual points. So if you're looking at guys that make a lot of birdies, they're obviously going to get more fantasy production out of them as well. So that's why it's always an important statistic. But at number 2, we have shots gained around the green. Typically, this is about a 12.5% weight. Obviously, getting up and down is important for any golf tournament. There's going to be places that it's a little bit more important, like this week, and places where it's not important at all, like the Detroit Golf Club. This week it's going to be about 22.9% of my weights for players. That is a very significant number, and it's actually the most correlated statistic at TPC Southwinds. It comes in number 5 out of 56 courses on tour in terms of importance. And while I was surprised with birdie or better percentage, this isn't surprising at all. When you have extremely small greens, you're going to be missing a lot of greens. It's very intuitive, it's very logical, and as a result, you're going to have to get up and down a lot more. We've seen a lot of the past winners have good around the green games. Justin Thomas is one of the best around the green scores on the tour. Daniel Berger, Dustin Johnson, aren't slouches in the category as well. But if you take a look at some of the guys who have consistently top 10'd in Memphis, it gets even more obvious. Guys like Jason Day, Patrick Cantlay, Webb Simpson, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Reed. All of these guys are infamous grinders. People that get up and down, don't ruin their scores with double or triple bogeys. And again, with the small greens, you're going to see a lot of the best players play well this week. You're definitely going to need guys when they miss greens to get up and down. And at number 1, we have shots gained approach. Like I mentioned before, this is typically my number 1 key stat for analysis. It's typically a 0.225 unit weighting for me. It's usually about 22.5% of my analysis. This week it's going to be even more so important though. I have it at about a 34.3% rate in my analysis, and with tiny greens, scoring is going to be accomplished with excellent iron play. You're not going to be making a ton of putts from 40, 50 feet. 40, 50 feet, you're going to be off of greens at TPC Southwinds. And so in order to score, in order to post low numbers, you're going to have to be on absolute fire with your irons. You're going to have to be like Colin Morikawa at the Open Championship, throwing absolute darts to score. If you're missing greens, you're just looking at getting up and down, sometimes even just saving bogey. And last year's winner, Justin Thomas, was a great example of this. Justin Thomas is a horrible putter. He's been in an absolute dry spell over the last few months as well. But he won last year's event by gaining nearly 10 strokes on approach. He's somebody who was throwing darts into every single green. He could pretty much win any event like that, but especially an event like Memphis where the greens are so small. I'm looking for guys that have elite precision this week at TPC Southwinds, people that can apply spin to balls as well. Because like I mentioned before, the Zoysia grass is very much, it very much allows you to put spin on the ball. It also allows you to overspin the ball as well. So people like Joaquin Niemann that put an absurd amount of spin on the ball, or even Bryson DeChambeau, I'm actually worried about some of the guys like that this week. They're going to be putting more spin than they'd like to on it. But people like Justin Thomas, people like Patrick Cantlay, Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, if he was playing, those guys know how to control their spin, even if they put a ton on it. So you're looking for guys like that have that precision. That's all I've got for this week's research video. I'm going to have my top 6 golfers to target for the FedEx St. Jude Invitational out tomorrow afternoon, so keep your eyes out for that. Let me know in the comments what you guys think the winning score is going to be this week for a chance to win a free month of my Patreon projections. You guys can put 1 or 2 guesses down there. It doesn't matter to me. If you guys are able to get the winning score correct, I will give you guys a free month of the Patreon. As always, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content. It really helps me out with growing the channel, and I really appreciate it a lot. Good luck with you guys' DFS lineups. Let's win some cash this week, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the top 6 golfers to target.